Hello there, great big world. It's me, Uncle Ben.
And me, Hollywood Steve. Over a 42-year career, John Carpenter directed 19 feature films, 2 made-for-TV movies, 2 episodes of Masters of Horror, and 1 short film. We picked our top 5 favorite of John Carpenter's horror movies. Here we go.
Alright kids, now this list ain't in no kind of preferential order, it's in a chronological order, as in it's following the logic of Chronos.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So let's kick this thing off with 1978's immortal classic, Halloween.
Halloween. Now this might be the best John Carpenter movie. I mean,
he peaked kind of early, honestly. It might be the best. It's my favorite, honestly.
Yeah, I would say it's a lot of people's favorite.
Now, much in the same way that Chick-fil-A claims to have invented the chicken sandwich, which I highly doubt, I'll argue that Halloween didn't exactly create the genre. Right. We had Black Christmas.
Black Christmas was 4 years ahead of it.
Yeah, and a couple other things that you could see as like proto-slashers. But let's really be honest here. I think that Halloween kind of created the model for every slasher after it, you know?
It definitely did. It created the idea of a Michael Myers type of character, which eventually became, of course, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and many other iterations.
Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney, of course. They made that robot to scare everybody that he might be president.
We've got a Jamie Lee Curtis, we've got a Donald Pleasance, we've just got a whole cast of really super memorable characters. The town of Haddonfield, and it's not fall, not Halloween, actually in the summertime imagery. Quite unforgettable. One of the things that I really love about Halloween is that it's just 100% John Carpenter's vision between him directing it and him doing the soundtrack. The soundtrack is easily one of the greatest in horror history, and it just relies on simplicity and repetition of a few variations of just a few central themes in there. I absolutely love the soundtrack of this, one of my all-time favorites.
After directing a made-for-TV movie that was a biopic of Elvis starring Kurt Russell,
a logical conclusion to Halloween.
Right.
Makes sense.
John Carpenter directed The Fog, which also stars Jamie Lee Curtis. And this is a really good sort of slow burn movie.
Ghost story.
Ghost story that builds up that tension and then actually pays it off. A lot of ghost stories will build up a big amount of tension and then there's just one quick scare or something.
Yeah.
But not The Fog. The Fog's got a whole bunch of, what are they?
Spooky pirate ghosts.
Spooky pirate ghosts. It's like an episode of Scooby-Doo, but great with Adrienne Barbeau. She's the radio announcer.
That's correct.
Really great, interesting, fun film.
Really, really cool one. Like you said, it's just a nice, slowly paced, classic feeling horror flick. I think my biggest complaint about it is the ghost's conspicuous lack of vibrato.
They're not believable. You can't believe a ghost that doesn't go, ooh.
They gotta be shaking those notes, man. If it's not vibrato, it's no ghost.
You either shake notes or you shake chains.
That's good.
That's right.
That's good.
To hear our thoughts on the original Halloween, check out episode 16 of our podcast. It's real early in the days. We were little babies back then. We didn't really know how podcasts work. Most of the episode is us just trying to eat the microphone.
Yeah.
We thought it was ice cream.
Yeah, we didn't really know what we were doing back then. But hopefully it's still an enjoyable episode. Rate and review on iTunes.
Yeah.
Coming in at number trace, we have The Thing from 1982. Probably the greatest horror remake of all time.
Yes, and a lot of that comes to Kurt Russell and just how awesome Kurt Russell is. But beyond that, it's just this real claustrophobic movie that you never really get a resolution on. You're not sure what happens at the end.
Yeah, and you know, there's such a huge cast of characters in it, and of course the cast is loaded. You've got Wilford Brimley and his diabetes, you've got Keith David, you've got all kinds of guys all over this movie. And there's such a large cast that, like, even after I've seen this movie several times, I'm still left kind of guessing, trying to remember, like, who's the alien and who's not, and who dies next, and stuff like that.
A real brilliant move to use a lot of characters to keep us confused.
Yeah, definitely. And that sense of confusion plus the sense of isolation of these guys being trapped on this Arctic base really, really just lends itself to this super slow, you know, it's like frog in a pot, like this slow boil thing. And of course it's aided by maybe the best practical effects of the 80s. Man. The effects in this movie are absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I would say the only one that really rivals it is like Aliens, probably.
Oh yeah, right.
The effects in that are insane, but this was made much before that.
The thing is, a good bit of sci-fi, but I think it still fits into the horror genre because not only do we have some great body horror, but we really do have some good scares in it.
Yeah,
there are some genuine moments of fright and terror.
Sci-fi horror is one of my favorite kind of subgenres, and I feel like it's done well so rarely.
Yeah.
Like, there's really only a handful of examples in the entire genre of flicks that really got it right.
Right.
And The Thing is absolutely at the top of that list.
Be sure to check out episode 92. It was a recent episode where we talked about John Carpenter's The Thing. You can hear our thoughts, maybe pick our brains, really find out what it is we think,
Rate and review on iTunes.
etc.
Subscribe.
Blah blah. Next up we have what used to be a science fiction movie but has slowly turned into a horror movie.
Woo! We talking about Idiocracy?
Nope, similar. They Live.
From 1988.
Yeah.
Starring one, Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Man.
See you at the crossroads.
So you won't be lonely.
I loved me some Rowdy back in the day.
Yeah, me too. He's great. Piper's Pit, that was awesome.
And this has also got to be one of the first movies that, like, directors started figuring out, oh, we can get wrestlers to be in our movies because they're big jacked guys and they already know how to act. And they can also be physical and do stunts and fights and stuff. It's like nowadays we got Batista, The Rock.
Oh yeah, Batista's great. Dwayne
and
Johnson, amazing.
Yeah.
I
John
think
Carpenter figured this out before everybody did.
I think Roddy Piper, I mean, because Hulk Hogan, of course, was in some movies in the 80s.
And they were as good as his in-the-ring wrestling.
Exactly. But Roddy Piper was always a big personality, and so it's easy to see him transfer to screen. And They Live just has so much resonance with current political situations.
Yeah, I think so.
It can make you feel maybe that we're not in a singular time. That things have kind of always been like this. And we've always been fighting against it. So They Live... It can be maybe a little depressing, but I think it should also be hopeful that we've been fighting on this.
Yeah.
We've been working to get past this.
Leg dropping and clotheslining and power slamming.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Always.
Elbow drop. They Live also has Keith David from The Thing and involves a wonderful fight scene between Roddy Piper and Keith David that lasts longer than you think it could.
Freaking ever. It's probably
insane.
Like the best one-on-one fight scene of all time.
Yeah.
It's like a mini SummerSlam match. It's the middle of the movie.
It really is.
Apparently they had choreographed it like themselves and stuff too. And like, we're really doing all these moves on each other. And stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, best fight scene ever. It was parodied in the Cripple Fight episode of
South Park. Yeah.
They basically showed the entire thing. So
they just did it exactly.
It's that fight scene.
Yeah, it's awesome. If only Mean Gene Okerlund had been announcing the fight,
I'd be very okay with that. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Damn it. Where are all our heroes going? Valhalla. And lastly on our list, but definitely not lastly in our hearts, is a little flick from 1994, which if you've ever listened to our award-deserving podcast, you've heard us talk about a million times. It seems like it just always comes up in conversation. We're talking about In the Mouth of Madness, which I think is among the most underrated horror flicks of all time, without a doubt, and probably the most underrated flick in Carpenter's catalog.
Yeah, and definitely the most underrated flick in the 90s.
Yeah, people think of the 90s as this like vast desert of no good horror, but there's some good stuff in there. It didn't really float to the top, but you know. Yeah,
that's true. But In the Mouth of Madness is one that, looking back on it now, I think people can see that it was an instant classic. Like it had everything you want in a horror movie.
Oh yeah.
You want it to be set in New England. Obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
You want it to be about an author. Duh.
Yeah.
And a literary agent.
Okay.
And an insurance detective.
It sounds like a recipe for a Stephen King book, probably.
Right. And of course you want there to be Lovecraftian horrors off in the darkness, controlling people's minds.
And that's what I love about this movie, is it really explores all these themes about like predestination and the way that ties into religion.
Yeah.
But also, like I said, the Lovecraftian elements. I really love everything about this movie. It's also got like a weirdly dark sense of humor and these odd, like, kind of meta elements too.
Yes, it's it is meta before Scream brought the meta.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really flips around on itself and sort of shove itself back up its own butt, but I really love In the Mouth of Madness and Sam Neill's performance in particular.
He chews up that scenery
so
like
great.
it ain't no thing, man. You can tell he definitely had a good time. I think it's his best role.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh.
Sorry about the balls, he says. To hear our thoughts on In the Mouth of Madness, go all the way back to episode 5 of our podcast. And it'll sound like it's from the 1920s. We were speaking into tin cans attached to
some long twine.
Some long twine that then vibrated, I think.
It was reverberating terribly off of my monocle as it recorded onto a wax cylinder.
Yep, for sure. And then we put it into a Model A and drove off.
Yeah, exactly right.
And honked at passersby and said, "Don't jaywalk!
23 skidoo!
Or you shall be struck down by my automobile!"
I challenge you to fisticuffs.
Yes, Marquis de Queensberry's rules. Of course. No below the belt.
It is a good episode, though.
It is. It's a great episode. Check it out.
But, of course, we all know that John Carpenter ain't just a horror boy. He's a real-life movie boy that makes all kinds of movies that aren't just about scaring you and making you poop your pants. So, before we go, we want to give a couple of honorable mentions to other movies he did that aren't horror, but are horribly great.
That's true.
My choice is being Escape from New York, starring one extremely dashing, handsome, and rugged and eye-patched Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Such a fun, really freaking sick movie, and a lot better than Escape from LA.
Oh, yeah.
Which, other than that Rob Zombie song, was not very good.
No.
But Escape from New York is great, and really just a testament to what you can do on a super low budget. That was a really cheap movie, and whenever you do some research and learn about how they did a lot of the stuff in that flick, really inspiring to see what they did on a shoestring budget.
My honorable mention is Big Trouble in Little China. Man, I love Big Trouble in Little China. It is silly, it's goofy, it's absurd, it's also awesome and fantastical and fun. And man, there's somebody familiar in that movie.
Yeah.
Isn't that Rurt Kussel?
I think that's him.
Rurt Kussel,
Pretty
yeah.
sure that's him. He makes an appearance in that film. That's the perfect Saturday afternoon flick right there.
For real. Sit down, have a fun time. I mean, seriously, it's such a fun movie. Kurt Russell's so great in it. Honestly, Kurt Russell's so great in everything. Just go watch Kurt Russell movies.
And if you don't like it, you better start eating that trash can.
What?
That's a They Live reference.
Yeah.
It's clarifying.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comment section below what your top 5 John Carpenter horror classics are. We'd love to hear from you. And be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring a ding that doggone bell for new videos every weekly leakly. Trying to keep the rhyme thing going.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
You can catch us on Instagram and Twitter at Dead Lovely Pod. We have a Facebook group, Dead and Lovely Horror something blah blah blah. Ooh. You find it.
You can do it.
Autofocus.
It's in 3D.
Whoa. Also, you can email us at deadandlovelypod@gmail.com. And we have a Discord server. If you want the link, you can email us, or it's also on our Facebook group.
We want to chat with you today. Whoa. Look at it.
Look at it. Don't stop looking. He's not stopping. You don't stop.
It's stuck.
Oh shit. It's broken again.
Yeah.
Tech support. Bye! Where have all the cowboys gone?
I'm glad you
did that. That's the one.
Armpit.
That's her.
Yeah,
that's her. Yeah.
What happened to her?
Started
an armpit
disappeared with the Cowboys, probably.
Yeah, wherever they went.
She figured out where they went and she left.